Well, you know, I like to make things. I've been making things with clay for about 50 years. And in the beginning, it was all functional work. I just made coffee cups and dinnerware and all that kind of good functional ware and sold it, and that's how I survived. But as I've gotten older, I've gotten more interested in making pots that are a little more difficult to make or exciting to make, and in the last couple of years, I've been working more sculpturally, making figures. I started making these little guys. So in the beginning, I had them sitting on benches or chairs or whatever, because I couldn't figure out how to make them stand up. So I made a bunch of people for a while, and then I started thinking about making people that would be in a boat. And I've got a little more sophisticated, and I started making people in a boat. And like anything else, when you decide to make something, how you make it and why you make it evolves. And so as I made the boats, they got a little more sophisticated, and I decided that, you know, I wanted to make these objects, and if people were going to be looking at them, I wanted them to have a story, and I wanted them to try and figure out what the story was. So I started naming the boats. This one's called Ready to Go. This guy's riding down the river, and he's ready to go. And then the how of it is, you know, how do you get it look like so there's some motion, and how do you make his cape look like it's blowing, and what should his fingers look like? I was making these freestanding figures, but again, I couldn't figure out, you know, this guy barely, he's balanced enough, but he'll fall over. And then I thought, well, you know, I really want to learn how to make them stand up. I really want to make some figures that are bigger, like you maybe should put outside and see from far away, and if they're standing up. And I was very inspired by the Chinese grave with all the full-size earthenware figures, and I thought, God, now that is some craftsmanship. How did they do that? So then I started working, and now I've gotten to the point where I'm making some bigger ones. And they're getting a little more sophisticated. There's one here that's kind of in process. It's been drying underneath that bag for quite a while, and you know, the clay's wet when you start doing it, so you got to prop everything up. You build them from the ground up, and you got to prop them up. And this guy's holding up this boat. And I don't really know if his arms are going to be strong enough to hold the boat when I pull away the support. Here we go. Oh yeah. And so over time, I've just, you know, this is like I think this is the fourth one that I built standing up. The first one I built standing up, of course, fell over. It was all over the place. So now I have to attach them to a little, I attach them to the ground. I put a little tile underneath them, and there they are. So right there. Then you get a little more sophisticated. You can see here, I've got the bar. I'm putting pockets in their pants. Got a belt. I'm really into this mohawk hairdo because I don't have enough hair to do it, but if I did, I would. You know, and anyways. There you go. So now, the key when you're building the whole thing is just go from the bottom up, and again, it's wet clay. So when you make the legs, you're trying to send them up, they're just going to fall over. So you've got to kind of put them together, and I'll show you how to do that later. And you stand them up, and then when that dries, and then I cover them up with these plastic bags, and I let them dry for like a week, and they dry very, very slowly, and the moisture moves, you know, throughout the piece, and it becomes a uniform degree of moisture in there, and then it just starts drying, and then you're good to go. And then I put them in a kiln and fire them up to about 1500 degrees, and hopefully they don't blow up. And again, pieces are hollow, so they're pretty heavy, but they'd be a lot heavier if it was solid clay. So I'd make the shoes and the legs and the torso and the arms and the head, and then I'd put them together from the bottom up. Here's a leg I just made yesterday. See, it's hollow. And this has been setting up for about 24 hours. It still moves a little bit. So if I wanted to set him up so his knees was bent, now would be the time to do that. And I can actually still, as I've been doing this again, the how. You know, you get more sophisticated at getting your walls a nice even thickness, and getting your knees looking good, and getting the little, you know, what do the little tendons look like back there? You know, you're trying to think about all that. I got this little glass cutting tool that I can stick in there, and if I want to give them bigger calves, you know, because I want the guys to have some muscles, stick it in there and push it around, and till you like it, you start thinking about where the foot's going to go. Alright, the shoe's just going to go in there. And then the other fun thing is, I like to make shoes. And these shoes are just getting started. So there's the bottom of the shoe. In the beginning I made all my feet too small. That made them harder to stand up. But so it's like this, and then when I get ready to do it, you know, so I can put a little, say I want to put a little sole on it. A little sole. Put these shoes on it. I gotta figure out how I'm gonna get them in there. So I put a hole right there. A hole right there. Got this little leg bone I made, and it's been setting up. It's kind of hard, but I can still make it a little bit thinner. I'll need 2 of them. And all this clay I can use, so I don't throw anything away. So when you're sticking stuff like this, it's kind of dry. Then you've got to get. I got this magic stuff here, and it's basically just really watered down clay. Same kind of clay that I'm working with, earthenware. And it's just, and this has been, I've had this pot of clay here for a couple of years. I just keep adding like little scraps like this to it at the end of the day. I'll just throw them in there and they'll become all soupy. But this is like just super wet clay, and it's just like glue. So you put it in there, put it in the legs here, stick some in there, or actually the easiest way to do this is get on your finger and give them a little poke. And then stick those bones in there. Gotta have enough clay. And this just kind of puts an even layer of wet clay around the whole piece. And now, make sure I got the shoe going the right way. Sometimes I put them on like that. The guy's walking backwards. Stick that right on there, and then I just kind of give him an ankle. Or I want to give him a pair of pants, you know, I can start creasing the pants right now. And I just pinch it around that little piece of clay I put in there. And there you go, got a leg. And it wants to fall over, so you just got to stand them up. Stick that in there. Come on, get out. Must not be open enough. There we go. Oh, just knee in the right place. And so, as I was saying earlier, you know, the how and the why. In terms of the how, it just, you know, you just start learning that, you know, when you can start doing certain things. Like I was saying, if I want to make a pair of pants, I can start giving them a crease right now. Give them a pair of bell bottoms, maybe. And that's the, as you're making it, it just kind of evolves. You say, you know, I could turn these into a pair of cowboy boots, you know, and put some clay on the side and give them some whatever. So I'm not sure yet. It's always evolving, and just like the boats, I'm always thinking about what can I add to this that's going to tell a story, and whatever I'm adding is going to help them understand what the story is. And so there you go. That guy's like that. And I usually try to put pants on them. So I'll give little cuffs at the bottom, and they'll kind of help strengthen the bottom of them there. I'll take my sophisticated tool here. Get the tops of my shoes looking good. And this is what it's like when you're first working with it. So it's obviously you got to make your shapes and let them start drying, or it won't work. So I'm going to finish these guys' laces here. So I'm just going to make the laces. Clay is amazing that you can just keep, I mean, you can roll it out super thin. It's going to be 2 laces. At the top. I just work on this little metal table because it doesn't absorb any moisture. Oop. Use right side of the brush. There you go. Got laces. That's a little long, so I'll just curl that up a little bit so it looks like it's. And then once they dry, I mean, you're pretty much stuck with where they're at. So yeah, you got to get them the way you like them, and then give it up. And as you're moving along, it's all dry, and then it's. You just got to keep at it till you're happy with what you got. Because the clay's still pretty wet, I don't have to do much to. I can just take a little piece of shoelace like this on there and twist it around and make it look like it's doing whatever. There it goes. There, give them a little knot. Okay, there you go. Got the shoes. Done. All right, so here's a piece that's kind of obviously much further along. So now I want to put a little person on his shoulder because I'm thinking about making totem poles. 2 or 3 guys stacked up. I don't know how hard that would be. And so this is the first time I ever put somebody on there. So I made the big guy, and as I worked him up, I made the pieces for the little guy, and he was drying. And then so I got this guy all the way up here. He had his head on, hadn't given him a face yet, and I stuck the legs on there. And to make sure he didn't fall off, I just decided I'd have him just use one hand and just hold the leg. And then I decided, well, he's got to be doing something, so I decided I'd give him a book. And I got this little piece of foam here because it holds up the hand. And I'm going to leave this on here because I'm not really sure if this is dry enough to hold the book. But so then I just made a little book and let it dry. And put it there. His hand, I need to do a little work on his hand. Lately I've really been into hands. This almost looks like a skeleton. But I add like little bones and knuckles and stuff afterwards, and I had to give him fingernails when I first put him on there. And then I got this guy, and I just so the head is hollow too. It's like you make a little egg, you pinch a little egg, and you stick it on the neck. And the neck's just a solid piece of clay. I drill a hole in it, so there's actually the whole piece is hollow. Legs are hollow, body's hollow, head's hollow, arms are hollow up around the shoulders. And so here he is, and it's so it's still wet. I can do this. So I cut his mouth out when he's pretty wet. And the nice thing about that is that he's sitting on a neck with a hole in it, goes into the cavity of the body, so there's air that moves through there. When I fire this, it'll shrink. And if the air couldn't get out, it would blow up. It would compress on that air and blow up. So you get the lips on there. They don't want to be too big. Again, the clay's super wet, so you'll see I can do all sorts of manipulation while I'm doing this. Just got to spot it a little bit. Okay. And again, I'll be able to come back with a wet brush later and give a little more detail. So there's his. All I gotta do is eyes. So I'll just do his eyes next. Kind of like to mark where they're going to be as I'm doing it. Again, it's really fragile. I could push his head right off here if I'm not careful. I'm still learning how to do eyes and best way to do it. If they're bigger, I can use my fingers. Kind of get in there and give them little sockets. So, yeah. Okay. And again, I'm always thinking about, well, what could I do? What could I do with this? What's the story? You know, I got this dad reading a book to his child. It could be a girl, it could be a boy. I was thinking about, given the crazy times we live in, maybe I need some element of the unknown or some fear or something. I was talking to my wife about having a snake down here coming up his leg, and she was like, oh, no, nothing evil, nothing evil. But that would be another layer you could put in there to have somebody trying to figure out what it is you're trying to tell. I've never started with knowing what it's going to be. Maybe it'd be easier if I knew what I was making from the start. I don't know. Okay. Wow, he needs a nose. It's a little big. This guy's got a big nose though. Could give him a family resemblance. So you just gotta make a little teardrop thing here. There we go. Oh yeah. He's got a nose just like his dad, or she is. He'll breathe. All right. Now I need some ears. Let's get your ears. So again, I have to get the exact details. As it hardens up, if I come in here, I can do all sorts of things to give it a little more shape, or give them wrinkles or whatever I want. I can smooth out the cheeks. I can make them a little skinnier. So then I think, I think I'm going to make a little girl. I'm going to make a little girl. So I got to give her some hair. It's nice to be able to spin them around and work on them. She's got a pretty ugly head, so it's a good thing she's going to have some hair. Get some of that glue up there. Okay. Oop, oop. Hold on. In here. There you go. I might stick a few more small ones on the side there. Kind of like the way looks like she's got a little crown on or something. Again, my time is very limited on these little tight points. There you go. Again, I could come back, work on it for another hour or so. I might give them front pockets. Kind of like the pockets. get the pocket flare. There you go. So here you go. Guy reading a book. I gotta work on his hand a little bit, give him some bones there. Now let's go back and I keep working the fingers so they're more like fingers all the time. It's fascinating to work with the hands. I might not do anything with that one, I'm not sure. Anyways, there you go. Very good. And the amazing thing about clay is you saw how floppy it was. You know, once it gets what they call leather hard, it's incredibly strong. You know, I could probably have this guy holding a boat. A little boat, So anyways, it's only, I think, the fourth one I've done. And, you know, each time I do it, I learn a little something, and now I'm starting to think about how do I incorporate a story? What elements can I add that will, when somebody looks at it, they can go, oh. Because, you know, I like to think that someone will enjoy them at some point in time. Other than me. Okay, this one's called Winner Take All. Here's another one called Last Call. Or Last Chance. Alright, this one's called Freedom. So here's one called Fake News. This one's called Redemption. Here's one called Fear Not. Here's one that was supposed to be called Amazed, but it blew up. Still, it's like being ancient Rome. All right, so got my first firing here. I fired to cone 04, which is like 1960 degrees, I think. We can find out because this is my kiln. It's computerized. If I hit review, I did cone 04, 1940 degrees. I fired at a slow speed and I held for 0. And it took, it's going to tell me how long it took in a minute. When I fire slow, it goes slow. 13 hours and 59 minutes. Because I actually turn it on and I hold it at 180 degrees for an hour just to make sure that all these thick pieces are totally dry. And I close the lid and there it goes. So here we go. Let's see what's in here. You can see you got some various pieces, and then at the very bottom I have some little glaze chips because I really don't have any glazes that fire at this temperature yet. I normally fire at a little over 2,000 degrees. So even though it's only 200 or 300 degrees difference, the glazes are very different. So let's unload and take a look and see what we got. now that they're fired, pretty much grab them anywhere. They're pretty strong. You can hear them? Pretty strong, about as strong as this clay can be. Earthenware clay. It's my guy reading to his little daughter. Yeah, so that came out pretty good. Pretty happy with that. Well, these pieces I just fired, they were green. They were cold when I first fired them. They're better bone dry. Here's my woodpecker eating the house. And that's I personally have the experience going on right now. Got a couple of woodpeckers trying to eat my house. That's what inspired that piece. Here's this guy. So I put a little bit of color on his hair, which is just a black iron oxide. And so it, just to get a little bit of color. But it's hard to work with it because it kind of, it's a water suspension and it gets soaked into the clay, and so it's really hard to kind of work with. And then I've also got just a variety of glaze chips. So these are like little pieces of clay that I bend and I put a little texture on them, and then I mixed up some glazes to see what I can get. And here's one you can see where normally that would not be hot enough to really melt the glaze. It's still kind of an interesting texture. It might work for what I'm doing here because you're not going to eat any of this stuff. Here's another one that's not mature. Didn't get hot enough. Not mature. That one's not mature, but I kind of like that one. Black and white. That's kind of interesting. And they're all numbered. You can see all numbered on that one. Doesn't even look like it even melted. But they're all numbered. That one's number 12. That way I can, I have a little log of what I did. There's one. Got almost melted. Blue. That's interesting. Kind of black and orange. I kind of like that. All I need is, I'd be happy with 2 or 3 that work right now. So I can keep experimenting. That's a nice one. Kind of a gunmetal green or something. Kind of flat, because if I fired it at 2,000 degrees, it'd probably be glossy green. But it melted enough that it's on there. It's not coming off. So that's kind of fun. So yeah, I learned a lot. And every time you do something, you refine it and you work along. So the nice thing about some of these glazes is I just put them on with a paintbrush, and you don't really see the ones that melted. You don't really see the mark from the brush, so that's nice. So if I wanted to just give the guy a pair of blue pants, I could do that. Or if I wanted to just do some little shingles, I could put it on there. I really like, and a lot of my pieces have some good texture, like this cape has some nice texture on it. If I put the glaze on there, you'd get the white and the black. It's kind of nice. Be a nice little effect, I think. So, moving forward. And all my boots here, they're not made out of this clay. They're a blend of all my trimming scraps from about 20 years of work. I didn't have any clay, so I just took all my scraps and put them in water and melted them down. Slaked them down and then made it into clay. So this is like part earthenware, part porcelain, part stoneware. Who knows what it is? I don't think I could fire it to cone 10. I could certainly fire it to cone 4. And now that I have some glazes, I'll be able to glaze those boats and finish them up. Because there wouldn't be this orange. There would be kind of a very light brown. It'd be very pretty. So today we're gonna do some glazing. I've got a couple of my boat people here. They're gonna get glazed. I've got a cone 4 blue glaze in this bucket down here. I have to mix that up so it's in good suspension. But before I start, I have to, the glaze melts, turns into glass basically. So you can't have any glaze on the bottom of the pieces. So here's my wax here. And I just want to put it as high. I'm just going to put it to the bottom of the boat. You can see it's very watery. It just runs. And you'll see when I glaze it that it will resist the glaze that goes on there. So that it just makes clean. I can just use a wet sponge and clean it up, but it's just a lot harder to do that. A lot more work. Do the same thing to this guy. And these I've been sitting in the back room for a while, so early this morning I came down and rinsed them off to get all any dust that accumulates on them, because when you put the glaze on it, that layer of dust will just, the glaze won't adhere. Just run right off. So the same thing here. Obviously it's not anything. So that's all I'm going to do with the wax. And we'll let that dry, and while that's drying, so I have this glaze here that I've mixed up from just raw chemicals. And it's just in a water suspension, but of course because it's chemicals, it just settles. Like a paint mixer on the end, works great. And I have this another specialty tool to keep it from splashing. It's in pretty even suspension. And as you can see, you can kind of see my skin through the glaze when I pull it out. That's about the right thickness. All right. So, if you're just glazing like a little coffee cup or something, you can just kind of take it and dip it in the glaze and it get a nice even coat on it. These boats are a little bit harder, so I could do it a couple of different ways. I could dip it one half and then dip the other half, but it's probably not deep enough. And there's also a chance of me banging the arms against the side and breaking them, whatever. So I think what I'll do is let's put it in this bucket and glaze it there. I'm just going to pour these guys, I think. Just pour the glaze across it. So I'll do one half at a time. So, there, you ready? I'm ready. You can see right there, I missed the front of the, between our legs there in front of the boat, so I'll just go back and just want to kind of get an even coat where it's a little bit thick. Where it's thicker, it's going to be a little different color. So, and because the wax is there, you can see glaze didn't get on the bottom. I can take a brush. Let's get a big brush here. That's one thing about these little guys. There's these little nooks and crannies that are hard to get glaze into. But that's a nice even coat of glaze, so that should come out nicely. I'll let that dry, and then I'll do one half of this one. Now on this one, I'm actually gonna put a little colorant on here underneath the glaze, and the colorant is black iron oxide. Very. I wear zero gloves because when I put it on there and then kind of wipe it off, and gets all over my fingers and gets all over everything, and then you start putting fingerprints on everything. So I just have a little black iron oxide mixed with, looks like ink, black iron oxide and a frit, which is a kind of a glass that's been melted a little bit to kind of give it a little bit of. Okay, so we got that going there. And I'm going to take a brush. Get some of this on here. I'm going to put this glaze. I'm going to put this on like on this bird here, and then you'll see I'm going to take a wet sponge and kind of wipe it off, and you'll see what it looks like when I get it out of there. So you don't have to get it everywhere because the sponge is going to get covered with this black stuff. It's black iron oxide. Okay, and then I'm going to do his shirt too. There's a little texture on his shirt. And this will be underneath the glaze when I glaze it, and it'll just kind of change the color of the glaze a little bit. It'll give it a little more dimension. The texture on the shirt will come through. And I'm just going to take a sponge, wet sponge, and see how you just get the black into the groove there. If I didn't wipe it off, it would just, the glaze would just turn black. I don't want that. So I just wanted to have some of the texture to show up. If I didn't have these gloves on, I'd have this all over my fingers, and everything I touched would have black iron oxide on it. This is kind of it's not a transparent glaze, it's an opaque glaze, so that doesn't, sometimes if you don't put some color in the texture, you'll never see it. It'll just get covered up. So that'd be perfect. So now you see it's got a little black on it there, and that should work out good. Okay, so I'll let that dry. So we're just going to glaze the other half of this guy here. Easier to finish the glaze. His head there. Come here. For the bare spots. The same thing here. I really like this guy. Make sure it doesn't get it. I was dipping them for a while, and because they're hollow, they'd suck up the glaze, and then when you try and pour it out, it would get so thick that it would close up the mouth. So I find that pouring it seems to work a little bit better. A little blank spot here. To drop them. That's always disappointing. And you can see again where it's not drying quite as quickly on the head and the tail because it was wet. So probably what I'll do after it dries is I'll go back and I'll just do another coat over top of the tail and the head, just so they're a little bit thicker. But that's basically it. And then you can see it's dry already. Doesn't take long to dry. Make sure there's no glaze on there. This wax is kind of nice. I mean, I buy it commercially, but it's got a little blue color to it, so you can usually see where it is. Well, sometimes you think it's glaze, and it's not. It's just the wax. But yeah, so now that's all clean. We'll let that dry completely. It'll sit on the shelf, and when this turns to glass, It'll just be bare clay on the bottom and it won't stick to anything. If I didn't do that when I went to empty the kiln, everything would be stuck to the shelves. And that's no fun. There you go. They're all glazed. So there you go. Those are glazed and they're ready to be fired, and they will. They're going to come out a blue. It should be a nice blue color, and then in the texture of the shirt, it'll be a little bit darker. It should be pretty interesting. With this piece over here, I've lately been doing some figures. You're sitting down, and then I throw little bowls or some sort of pot to have them hold, just so there's some activity. So you could somebody could put a little plant in there if they wanted to, or you could put it by your door and throw your keys in it, or whatever. But just to do something. So I've got one that I'm working on here. Lately I've been doing a bunch of them on seats. And here's a little. So this is my most recent piece here. As you can see, it's got the. So we sit on this stool, and I've got these boards underneath it, and a little wedge, so that when I'm working on the piece, I don't break the stool. That's been a problem for me. It's this is pretty fragile as it's drying. So right now all the weight's on this 2x4, and I can just work on it. So I'm going to throw a couple of pots, because when I work on it, I'm never really sure how big it needs to be or what I'm going to do. But I think with this one I'm going to put the arms on here and have them coming up, so they're going to be holding like a big plate or a shallow bowl. And I'm going to throw it two different ways. And that'll be so I have to get that, I have to throw that. It has to kind of get hard enough that, again, I can manipulate it, I can hold it, I can put the arms on there, bring the arms up, stick them to the bowl when it's wet, and then I'll have to use some 2x4s to support the arm, probably on the elbows, or to support the bowl somehow so that the hands can just be there while the arms are drying. So that'll be a challenge that I'll have to get to later. I don't know how I'll do that yet. So anyways, today I'm going to throw a couple bowls that are going to go on top of this piece, and I'm going to throw two of them. They're going to be a little bit different in size and shape, because I'm not really sure what I want yet. So I'll make them out of the same kind of clay, and because I know how big I want them to be, I've weighed the clay. And so the first thing I have to do is, it's called wedging. You have to work clay up, get all the air bubbles out of it, and if you once you learn how to do it well, this is called spiral wedging. You can see I've already done these a little bit, but you get that. And this piece of clay, the first thing I have to do is center it in the middle of the wheel. If you do a good job wedging, they're centered, and the clay's been wrapped in a nice concentric circle. And you'll see I'll throw them on here, and they'll be ready to go. So I'm going to throw upside down. So I'm going to have to. I'll hold like this. It's clean. It'll be flat on the top if I want to cut a square hole instead of a round hole. It'll be something that I can play with. So it'll be a bowl like this, but upside down, and then the bottom of it will be the bottom of the pot. You'll see that here in a second. Again, got to get in the center of the board. And the reason I put this down is because I won't be able to pick this one up, because the fat part will be down. So again, we want to do about 8 inches, so there's something in here. This is going to be impurity or something. Eventually be the top. It's a piece of rock or something. size lip on it. Just a wooden tool, a rib, and this is how you shape it. Do this first. Nice round bottom here. And I'm going to put a big wide lip on it. I'm going to put a little texture on this lip here. There's a wet sponge, make that rim nice and smooth. And then I'm going to go in. Oh, here we go. I have some sort of texture on here, so again, I couldn't be able to pick this one up. Because again, it's on this little wooden board here. There you go. Now it's going to shrink. So let me look. I forgot to measure it. So it'll be about 9 inches, but it's going to shrink some. Just got to cut it off. Here's a wire. And when that dries, it'll just pop right off. And there it is. There you go. So one of these will end up being on top of that figure over there. I don't know which one yet. I'm kind of partial to this one because I like throwing them upside down. It kind of gives you really a different look than your typical bowl. But